back to that breaking news story now on Fees Must Fall activist Kanya Cekeshe, who's been released from the Leeuwkop Prison. And this, of course, like in the case of the AbaThembu King, Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo, it follows the remission of sentences that was granted by President Cyril Ramaphosa last week. And joining us on the line now, we are speaking to Mr. Crispin Phiri from the Department of Correctional Services, spokesperson in that department. Mr. Phiri, good morning. Thanks so much for speaking to us here on Morning Live.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers.
Mr. Phiri, first and foremost, we just received that news that Kanya Cekeshe, the Fees Must Fall activist, has been released from Leeuwkop Prison. Just confirmation from your side, please.
Indeed, we can confirm that Mr. Cekeshe has been released from Leeuwkop and is currently home at the moment.
Now, Mr. Phiri, with regard to the process that was followed, we are reporting, of course, that this follows the remission of sentences that was announced by President Ramaphosa. But just speak to us about the process, if you will, regarding this particular release.
Indeed. So as you have correctly outlined that he is a beneficiary of the remission process, which has effectively brought his parole forward by a considerable amount of time. And that effectively means that he has then had to complete what we call pre-release programs. He's also had to do just some rehabilitative activities that are done in our correctional facilities. And then he's been able to be placed on parole. The parole board sat yesterday. They reviewed his application and it was granted. Of course, his parole is subject to certain conditions, which at the level of the ministry we are not privy to. But they are normally the normal conditions, such as confirming his location from time to time, and if he were to leave the province, maybe he would have to then inform Correctional Services. The normal parole conditions, which he would have to be subjected to that. So that is how the process has worked so far, and indeed he is home.
Mr. Phiri, we have focused, of course, on the high-profile cases, this of Kanya Cekeshe and, of course, the AbaThembu King, Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo. But the president, of course, in making that announcement, it was obvious that many people would be affected by that. How many other people have been released so far, if you know, following that remission of sentence announced by the president?
Yeah, we're not privy yet to the full report. We'll be able to get a report by the end of this month. But one of the things that we had said in the remission process is that the first beneficiaries would be, in the main, women, youth, and people who are incarcerated with disabilities, people with disabilities in our facilities. And so far, we have seen people coming out, so to speak, in drips and drabs after having followed the procedure that was set out, which is quite a strenuous procedure. It involves giving your biometrics results, giving your biometric information to the department through Home Affairs, and also giving DNA information to the department through SABC, South African Police Services. So once those processes are complete, then people are able to then be processed for parole where necessary. But in the main, we've also said that 70% of the people who have qualified for this remission are already in our communities and are on parole as we speak. So it would mean either that their parole gets cut short by a year, or in the main it may mean that their sentence has been expired. So those are the processes that are taking place, and we do envision that it may take a considerable amount of time to get everybody out of the system or everyone processed in terms of the remissions.
Well, Mr. Phiri, thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Crispin Phiri, spokesperson for the Department of Correctional Services, confirming for us there that Fees Must Fall activist Kanya Cekeshe has been released from Leeuwkop Prison. And that wraps our news at 6 o'clock. We'll bring you headlines at 6:30.